Welcome to Earth Archives. Last time we mentioned in the program that at the end of World War II, Nazi Germany left many mysteries behind. Today we are going to talk about another legend, the Führer's submarine fleet and the Berlin 211 base in Antarctica. But they are just legends, everyone. It's better to listen to it as a story. Before the show starts, please subscribe, like, and turn on the little bell. If possible, leave your thoughts. This will help the growth of the show. Without further ado, let's officially start. The founder of the Führer's submarine fleet legend was journalist Ladislao Szabo, who published a book in Argentina in 1947 called Esta Vivo, Esta Vivo. The publication of this book was prompted by the surrender of the German submarines U-530 and U-977 in Argentina in the summer of 1945. This led Szabo to develop a theory that the Führer and Braun left Europe in a submarine between April 22 and May 2, 1945. He believed that U-530 and U-977 were escort submarines accompanying the Führer and his wife to the Klein Berchtesgaden base in Antarctica, which was established by a German expedition in 1938. In his writings, Szabo noted the fact that the body had not been found. A German expedition led by Alfred Richer explored Antarctica in 1938 and claimed to have discovered New Swabia, the Antarctic territory claimed by Germany. German submarines U-530 and U-977 arrived in Argentina at the end of the war. Szabo mixed these facts together to create a myth about the Führer escaping to the Antarctic in a submarine. This myth is popular among proponents of alternative history theories of the Third Reich. Allied intelligence also took a certain interest in the rumors of the Führer's absconding. The crews of U-530 and U-977 were therefore interrogated, but no evidence was found to support this claim. In addition, after the war, the Allies conducted separate surveys of each submarine in the German Navy. The investigation was aided by German naval documents and Donitz's staff captured by the Allies in May 1945 at Tambach Castle in Bavaria, northern Germany. As a result, no trace of the Führer's submarine fleet was found. Later, the United States and Britain returned the originals of all German documents to the Federal Republic of Germany, but retained copies and translations. However, because documents related to submarine warfare remained classified for decades after the war, this provided fertile ground for myths about secret German bases in Antarctica. The legends continued to evolve, adding some storylines worthy of science fiction. For example, the Third Reich was depicted as an isolated Atlantean civilization that built its own flying saucers and possessed the Holy Grail or the Longinus gun, such mysterious sacred object. According to the legend of the Führer's submarine fleet, submarines play an important role and are the link between Germany and Antarctica. However, proponents of this theory have been unable to agree on which submarines were part of the Führer's submarine fleet. This leads to two versions of the legend, which are worthy of our study. Missing submarine. According to German historian Axel Nieseler, the total size of the German submarine force between 1935 and 1945 was 1,167 ships. During World War II, the German Navy had a total of 1,110 submarines, including 15 captured foreign submarines. Total German submarine losses were 1,024, including those sunk in battle, captured by the Allies, and scuttled by Germany itself before the end of the war. The submarines of the German Navy are divided into two categories: combat submarines and non-combat submarines. Combat submarines are used for combat, and non-combat submarines are used for training, experimentation, and other purposes. The total loss of Category 1 submarines was 717, mainly due to sinking by the enemy. Of these, 63 submarines are listed as missing, because there is no evidence that they were sunk by a specific incident. It was these missing submarines that became the focus of those who supported the Führer's submarine fleet theory. They believe that these submarines were part of the Führer's submarine fleet and successfully escaped to Antarctica. However, there is a serious flaw in this theory. These submarines are combat submarines and belong to the Navy's submarine force, not the Arnhart Association. According to preserved documents from Donitz's headquarters, these submarines did not perform any secret missions. They participated in the war and their activities were recorded in battle logs, most of which are still intact today. Therefore, it is impossible to try to connect these missing submarines with the myth of the Führer's submarine fleet. Some missing submarines, such as U-47 and U-553, have been studied many times by historians. It is hard to imagine that these most famous submarine captains, such as Gunther Prien and Karl Thurman, would give up attacking the Allied fleet and instead build an Antarctic paradise for the Führer. Fictional submarine. Another version of the legend about the Führer's submarine fleet holds that these submarines did not exist at all. Those who support this theory believe that the legendary Führer's submarine fleet is just a fictional story and a product of people's imagination. There is some truth to this statement. First, there is no evidence that the Führer's submarine fleet ever existed. Secondly, there are many contradictions in the legendary Führer's submarine fleet. For example, there are legends that these submarines can survive in the extremely harsh Antarctic environment, but there is no evidence to support this statement. To sum up, neither the missing submarine version nor the fictional submarine version can be supported by sufficient evidence. Therefore, we can conclude that the Führer's submarine fleet is just a myth without any historical basis. U-464 was one of 10 Type 14 submarines built by the German Navy during World War II. Type 14 submarines are submersible tankers specifically designed to provide fuel and supplies to other submarines at sea. Type 14 submarines are also known as cow submarines. This submarine is cleverly designed to provide fuel and supplies to other submarines at sea. U-464 has a fuel capacity of 2,600 tons and can provide other submarines with a range of approximately 1,000 nautical miles. The submarine U-464 can also carry a large amount of supplies, including food, ammunition and other supplies. During World War II, the German Navy had a total of 25 types of submarines, of which only Type 14 submarines were submersible tankers. In order to extend the range of combat submarines, Germany built 10 Type 14 submarines, which were called cows. Although the Kriegsmarine's Design Bureau continued to study other types of transport submarines, none were ultimately built. Submersible tankers and transport submarines of types XIVB to XVI, enlarged Type 14. Types XXID to XXIV, tankers for Type 21 submarines, and types XXIE to XXIT, Type 21 submarines, remained on the drawing board. A project for the UF-type submarine did exist, but it was developed in 1917 as a small single-hull 300-ton submarine for use in North Sea operations. This submarine will replace the UBII submarines of the Imperial German Navy. Not a single UF submarine was built. Therefore, it can be concluded that any claims that Germany is building large transport submarines to build a mysterious Antarctic base are baseless fictions. The source of Earth Paradise. The term Earthland first appeared in the book Secret Passage, published in 1961. This book is adapted from the memoirs of prisoners of war and tells the story of a German submarine sneaking into the Antarctic and establishing a secret base there. After the book Secret Passage was published, it quickly caused a sensation and was adapted into a movie. After the film was released in the Soviet Union, it also caused a huge response and further spread the legend of Earth Paradise. The commander-in-chief of the German Navy, Karl Donitz, gave a speech in 1943 in which he said, "The German submarine force has built a paradise for the Führer at the end of the world, an unassailable fortress." This sentence first appeared in 1967 in the book The Avengers. The author is a journalist known for writing conspiracy theories. The book does not provide any evidence to prove the authenticity of this statement, just the author's personal speculation. Therefore, there is currently no evidence to prove that the Führer's submarine fleet conspiracy theory is true. This is just a legend without any basis. The book gives a lot of attention to South America as a possible refuge for high-ranking Nazis. As one of the evidence, he cited the dubious testimony of 2 detained sailors by Graf von Spee. The latter allegedly unloaded heavy boxes from 2 unnamed ships in an unnamed bay and also witnessed unidentified passengers disembarking from the ships. But the author of the book did not consider the theory of Arctic Nazis. Nonetheless, followers of the Antarctic myth found Donitz's words very convenient to use as evidence of Berlin 211's existence. Cross the equator. The first German submarine to cross the equator was U-65, commanded by corvette captain Hans-Gerrit von Stockhausen. This happened on December 12, 1940. The submarine set off from Lorient on October 15, 1940, bound for the African coast and arrived in Freetown 3 days later. During this voyage, Stockhausen sank 8 ships with a gross tonnage of 47,794 tons and damaged 1 ship with a gross tonnage of 8,532 tons. The second German submarine crossing of the equator, bound for the waters of St. Helena in the South Atlantic, occurred a year later. At that time, Denners dispatched a formation of Class 9 submarines to the area. But the operation ended in failure. In November-December 1941. The submarines were forced to withdraw urgently because they had to participate in the rescue of the Atlantis, sunk by the British before they could start the operation. The crew of the raiding ship and the supply ship Piton. All submarines were forced to return to France in late December. A third attempt to move submarine activity south of the equator in the South Atlantic was made half a year later. In the summer of 1942, Denners sent the Icebar submarine formation to Cape Town and individual submarines to the Gulf of Guinea and the coast of Brazil. From that point on, German submarines began regularly crossing the equator in an effort to shift the intensity of submarine warfare into the South Atlantic and Indian Oceans. By the summer of 1943, Germany had lost the Battle of the Atlantic. And then the Allies landed in France in the summer of 1944, driving Germany out of its French bases once and for all. By then, Allied counter-submarine forces had taken control of the situation on both sides of the Atlantic. Based on this, it can be unequivocally stated that the German submarine force did not engage in any dubious actions to establish impregnable fortresses.